Folks, when you're hunting bears, which can hunt you back, you need to have the right tool in your hands. Is that a bolt action or a lever action? I'm Joseph Von Benedict here with Ron Spomer Outdoors, the legend himself, to talk about what you should be carrying into the woods full of bears.
Bear. This is going to be an unbearable show. Hang in there, folks. Hey, Joseph, welcome back. Good to have you again. You're becoming a regular here, and we love it. So, what is all this nonsense about which is the better bear rifle? Shouldn't we start off a conversation like this with which is the better bear cartridge and or bullet?
Yeah, maybe we should. But the good news is, folks, just to keep this, to button it down right up front, both the lever action and the bolt action fire a broad range of appropriate cartridges and bullets. So you can kind of choose and tailor to the task.
Well, okay, so you're going to go back to which rifle is the better rifle. All right, I'll play your game. What are you going to pick, lever action or bolt?
So I think it depends a lot on the scenario. If you hunt big woods country,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything better than a lever action. If you glass big canyons and avalanche chutes,
Okay.
I think you should have a bolt action. where you
Open
can
country,
reach
bolt
out.
action, thick cover, lever action.
Yeah, I think
Why?
if you had to sum it up, that would be the best way to do so.
Give me my advantages on the lever
Okay.
action and heavy cover.
You bet. So lever actions point very naturally. They carry comfortably in your hands, but probably more than anything else, they're fast. A man that knows how to run a lever action can make somebody that doesn't know how to run a semi-auto look slow. Lever actions can be super, super
That's
fast. And when you look at the bigger cartridges that this family of rifles shoots, there's some rounds with real authority. Coming back to your question about shouldn't the cartridge come first?
Yeah. Okay. Lever actions, most people are going to say, oh, yeah, 30-30. We're good to go, right?
For a black bear, absolutely. 30-30 is a great black bear cartridge inside of 150 yards or so, maybe 200 yards in the hands of a very accomplished rifleman, especially if you're using an optic. But if you're going for the bigger bears, a grizzly bear or
Brown bear.
Coastal brown bear, where
Big.
they've got the habitat, the food sources that they just bulk up so big,
Mhm.
you're going to want a bigger cartridge. My favorite and really the most popular is the 4570. Other great options would be a 444 Marlin, a 450 Marlin, which is kind of a souped up 4570.
Belted.
And then you can get into kind of the specialty stuff like a 475 Turnbull
Yeah.
or a 50 Alaskan. There's some really awesome lever action cartridges.
Those are
for
not
the big
commercial
bears.
cartridges. Those are Wildcats, right?
Yes and no. The
No.
Turnbull, I believe, is a commercial cartridge. Just nobody loads it except for, well, Turnbull. Grizzly cartridge did for a little while. But it's mostly a hand loading prospect.
Okay. So the average hunter is probably going to roll with 4570.
Yeah, 4570 is a terrific choice.
Yeah, and you've got the famous Marlin,
Yep.
1895, lever action.
That's
New
right.
one's been built by Ruger.
Mhm.
Really high quality, I've heard. I haven't worked with one yet, but they're just like slicked up and working.
They're very good. This is one of the new Ruger Marlins. It's an 1895 guide rifle built under the Ruger umbrella.
Mhm.
I used this on my Idaho black bear this spring.
Yeah.
Worked fantastic. Shooting this load right here, it's a 300 grain Barnes triple shock. I was averaging 1.25 inch groups at 100 yards for 3-shot groups. It shoots
Nice.
very well.
Yeah.
It's smooth. It's reliable. It's a great little rifle. I would very confidently take this for bear out to 200 yards.
What was your velocity on that load?
Just over 1,800 feet per second out of an 18-inch barrel.
Mm.
And that's with a 300 grain bullet.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, I think we've covered the lever action.
Yeah.
The bolt action rifle is the wilderness hunting rifle. I mean,
Mhm.
if you want dependability and function, can't beat it. Bolt action rifle, strong, dependable. You can shoot bigger cartridges through this thing than you can that.
Yes, you can.
375 H&H,
Mhm.
338 Win Mag. I would say the 338 Win Mag is a better option for the bigger bears than the 4570.
Oh,
Even though
absolutely.
it's a 338.
Yeah.
It's got more velocity. You can get some
Mhm.
great 250 grain bullets that are long, deep penetration, high sectional densities. I can't argue against it. Why not go with the bolt action?
Well, if you want speed, this is a little bit faster and you carry 6 rounds in the magazine. A 338 Winchester Magnum, you're going to have 3 rounds in the magazine. Okay. So you got double the firepower. And depending on how much you practice, a fair amount more speed. I mean, a good man with a bolt action can run his rifle fast, but a good man with his lever action is almost blinding, right? I will throw one caveat out there. I think I'd almost rather have a 4570 loaded with plus P 4570 loads, those higher pressure ones for the strong actions like the Marlin. If I was digging a wounded brown bear out of a thicket, then I would want to have a 338 Winchester Magnum.
Now there I can ride with you on that one. Heavy cover, charges, anything close, shorter barrel, faster action. That's what you're looking for. You want to respond as quickly as that bear is responding. And man, they can come at you quickly. Whereas this is more of a hunting rifle. You've got a longer shot. You've got the horsepower. You've got the reach. You've got the flat trajectory. You're going to do better with a bolt action.
And that's where this one really shines. Now, bolt action, I believe, is the most reliable type of action in your common hunting rifle types.
Agree.
A lever action is very reliable, but certain types of debris, ice and so forth, they just don't have as much camming power as a bolt action does. A bolt action has very few parts and is extremely strong. This particular one is a 375 H&H. You don't need that much for most bears. Coastal brown bears, it's terrific. Interior grizzly bears, it's terrific. Next to it, we have a 375 Ruger, which gives you a little bit shorter action. The 375 H&H requires a long action. They're both great cartridges, right? You can get a controlled feed action very inexpensively from Ruger. The M77 is a great rifle. You can get them still from Winchester, the Model 70. And there are a few other companies that make a controlled feed action.
Is Montana back in business with the controlled round feed action?
I've seen some information that suggests they are. I don't know anything.
Montana rifles. And then Park West Arms. They took over Dakota.
Yes.
Can't call it Dakota anymore, but they call it Park West Arms. They're building the same outstanding controlled round feed action they call it the SD 76 now instead of the Dakota 76. That's a controlled round feed action, beautifully built rifle. So there are some good options out there. I would say if you're hunting bear, get a bolt action in a 338 Win Mag or higher. 375s, 416 Rem Mag would be a great option.
For coastal brown bears, your reach is a little less with the 416. So that's why I come back to the 375s, because they've got a whole lot of authority up close. And yet, if you have a wounded bear that's going over the ridge 350 or 400 yards away, and you have a rifle that's properly set up like this one, where I can dial the scope to yards, I can hit a 12-inch plate with this at 500 yards. And that bullet still got good authority. So, whether you're looking at coastal brown bears or grizzly bears, which this is ideal for, or maybe you're shooting a 30-06 for black bears here in Idaho, or maybe you're a modern guy and you've got a 7mm PRC. The bolt actions give you reach. They give you extraordinary reliability. They give you the accuracy to connect ethically at extended distances. This is a 200-yard gun. This, in the hands of a good rifleman, is a 450-yard gun. And in the hands of an extraordinary rifleman, can be stretched, I think, ethically to 500 or even 600 yards.
Now, what do you think is the actual difference in time for reloading and shooting this bolt action versus the lever action?
For your first 3 shots, I would say it's maybe a quarter-second difference is all.
Doesn't amount to much, does it?
Your follow-up 3 shots, where this one you're still running live rounds out of that magazine every half second.
You putting 6 or 7 in that tube?
6 in the tube, 1 in the pipe.
7 versus 4.
Yeah, you can put 1 in the magazine, 3 down. 1 in the chamber and 3 down. You can put 1 in the chamber and 6 down. So if you've run your 4 rounds here, that's assuming you topped off going into that encounter, right? If you've got your 4 rounds, then you have to reload. It's much slower. Yeah.
So get the job done with your first 3 shots. And you can get some drop magazines too on the bigger rifles. The classic in Africa for a buffalo gun, you get the drop magazine. So you can, this is not a drop out magazine. It's your enclosed magazine with the trap door on it and all, just like this one. but they extend enough for one more round.
Yes.
So you can pick up some 4s.
There are a few people that'll build one of those. Lex will do it for you with a synthetic stock, but most of the factory guns you find are going to have wood stocks. So they're just not as suitable for the far north for bears.
Yeah. Now, one more point I want to make. Controlled round feed action. This is one that I really love for any kind of dangerous game. You've got your controlled round feed with that big claw. Your cartridge gets picked up. When you shove it out of the magazine, it gets underneath that claw immediately, and it is held, which means you can't short stroke and leave it sitting there and then pick up another round and shove it against it, and you're jammed. You pull it all the way out, and you've got to come all the way back before it flings it off. So that's what people who hunt dangerous game like about the controlled round feed. What is the condition of a lever action like that? There's no such thing as a controlled round feed, is it?
No, not as far as I'm aware of any lever action type. On the plus side, a lot of them don't drop a cartridge back onto the follower until the lever is fully forward, right? So that can help minimize the foibles introduced by the soft tissue behind the scope, right? But with a lever action, it is important to practice a lot, even if it's just dry fire practicing, right? To run that lever. And you always run a lever action like you're trying to break it, right? They're happiest, they function best that way.
Same with
run them fast and hard.
Yep.
And they'll function very reliably for you. You come up here and you get tentative on it, you're possibly going to introduce some malfunctions. And actually the same thing goes for bolt action, you know. You can feather it at the range so you catch your brass on the bench and it doesn't get dirty or whatever. But when you're really practicing and when you're hunting with it, you shoot, run it like you mean it.
And one other thing I would add to that is that so many people don't think about keeping the rifle in battery on their shoulder. You know, they shoot once and then they drop it, watch what's happening and reload, bring it back up again. Now you have to reacquire your target. Whereas if you shoot and then use recoil to bring your cycling hand back, you're ready to shoot again. Stay in the gun, stay in the scope, bang, bang.
Yeah.
If you can do it. Takes a lot of practice. And you can use light loads to practice. If you're a hand loader, load it down so you don't have to full recoil. Great way to train.
Or get yourself a light rifle, a 223 or 6.5 Creedmoor of the same type as your bear rifle and practice with that. That's a fantastic way to go. And it could really pay off. I've got a 416 Ruger controlled feed bolt action that I've used on dangerous game. And when I was preparing to go hunt in Africa with that, I did a lot of practice. I loaded a bunch of mild loads over Trail Boss powder. And then I started running full power loads. And at one point I went to the FTW ranch. I know you've been there, and went through their safari course where they have simulated charging animals. So much fun. Well, somebody videoed me shooting 4 shots at a pair of charging buffalo. And watching it back, I couldn't believe it. I'm tooting my own horn here a little bit, but I ran those 4 shots, all of them well centered in the kill zones in 4 seconds.
4 seconds, yeah.
416 bolt action. Now, it does have a muzzle brake. That cuts a lot of the muzzle jump off. But it says a little bit about what you can do with some practice.
Now, I know a lot of the 4570s are coming with a muzzle brake on the front for that same reason. You recommend that in an 18-inch barrel?
You know, I've never found that a 4570 is really that violent in recoil. So I don't use a brake on it. Anytime you're hunting dangerous game, grizzlies, brown bears, whatever, if you're running a brake, you should be running ear protection. And that is counterproductive on dangerous game. You need to be hearing what's happening around you. So then you can use maybe an electronic protection like Tetra Hunt provides, where you can still hear. They give you some directional mobility, but it cuts out the sharp sounds that damage your hearing.
Right. Okay, I think that about sums it up. There, as you said, a lot of suitable cartridges for bear in their bolt action rifles, fewer in the lever actions. Heavy cover, quick action, lever, longer barrel, little slower action, rifle reaches out farther in a bolt action. So I think that sums it up.
Yeah.
Any other advice?
So. You know, if you really want authority at distance, this is important too. Even at 200 yards, most high-powered bottleneck cartridges out of a bolt action are going to have a lot more impact authority than anything out of a lever action.
That is a great point, because so many people say, oh, 45, 70, my gosh, that's a massive 300 grain bullet, and it's wide, and it's going to make a big wound, and oh, it's got so much power. But when you start looking at the actual energy production from that thing, it doesn't even hold up. Well, it's about like a 308. Really, in your initial energies.
Fairly comparable, yep.
Then you look at a 375 H&H, and my gosh, you're getting up over 4,000 foot-pounds of energy with this guy. You're probably looking at 2,100 or something. So there's not that much energy in there, but you do have the advantage of the momentum on that heavy bullet.
And the frontal diameter.
And the frontal diameter, as they say. So those are working to your favor. But when you start looking at one of these ballistically efficient bullets downrange, then you're retaining more of your energy. It comes down to efficiency.
Yes.
And that's where, again, you're right on with close cover. You've got the advantage of that big bullet, the fast action and everything else, and plenty of power. It's once it starts getting past 100 yards, you start losing it. Whereas the bolt actions with the sleeker bullets, higher velocities, keeps going. So I think those are the two things that you really need to decide on. Are you going to be in tight and want something advantage like that? Or are you going to be stalking and spotting, looking out in the alpine and taking them from a distance? I think you want your bolt action.
100%. If you never shoot past 100 yards, you live in a thickly wooded area, you can't see past 100 yards, it just doesn't get better than this.
Yeah.
If you're an open country Western hunter, this is your sweetheart.
I think we just summed it up.
There you go.
Of course, you guys don't have to do what we recommend. You're free to do whatever you want. Just don't take your BB gun.
There is one better option than either.
No.
Own both.
Own both.
Yes.
Which one of these manufacturers are you working for?
Neither.
All right, folks. That's the Joseph and Ron story on bear guns. We have both hunted grizzly bears. Have you taken a brown bear yet?
I haven't even hunted grizzlies myself.
Oh,
I served as a packer on brown bear hunts.
Looks like you're probably adequate for that.
Whew, it kicked my butt on the Alaska Peninsula, carrying a 120-pound brown bear hide in the skull that got in the water. So then it was 140 plus. Yeah, that was good times.
Well, I have done the grizzly and I have done the brown bears and 375 and 300, and they all work. But right bullet, right place is still the answer for everything. It's just that some tools allow you to put that right bullet in the right place a little more easily and a little more effectively. So stay true to yourself. Use what works for you. Use enough gun. Use enough bullet. And keep watching Ron Spomer Outdoors, because we really need the support.
And if you want more stories about bear hunting and bear killing and so forth, check out the Backcountry Hunting Podcast.
You cover that?
I do.
All right, there you go, folks. It's unbearable, but you can listen anyway. Hey, this is Ron Spomer with Joseph Von Benedict, who's urging all of us to
hunt hard and shoot straight.
Let's try
that again.
Yeah, let's try that again. Who's going to tell you?
Hunt hard, shoot straight, folks.
No, hunt honest, shoot straight, folks.
Hunt honest and shoot straight.
You can hunt weak if you want. And with Joseph Von Benedict, who's here to advise us to
hunt honest, shoot straight, folks.
Yeah.